Alright, come join Kyle, John and David as they go through what's on the playlist, find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest, in and out points, no celebs and the gossip, back in time where we're talking about the big M's, coming attractions, what the queue, quick checks, who'll be laughing, you abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast where you can hear all latest in television, entertainment news with two meals with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen, and another one is...
Yeah, Berwick and a third one.
Kyle Bridger. I would say that I am the Tim Robinson to John's Ted Lasso, because he's the maestro. And Dave, I always do this to you, but you're Dave again.
Dave again, yeah.
I think I've done that to you before. I think I've given you Dave once before.
Multiple times before, but you know what? Just back away, banana breath. Like, what did you eat? A banana? Get out of here. Like, I don't need that tonight from you. Yeah, we're going to be talking about all of that tonight. We got I Think You Should Leave. We got Dave. We have Ted Lasso. And we also have the much buzzed about The Idol on Max. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
Max, I gotta get
some
it
trouble,
right.
Dave.
Yeah, okay. Close one. All right. We also have this first segment. John, what is it?
In and out points.
In or the out. In or the out. In, out.
Yes, it is in and out points. Last week, we discussed the series finales of Succession and Barry, and in celebration of those, plus The Marvelous Miss Maisel and possibly Ted Lasso, all these shows ending, The Ringer released a list of the top 40 series finales of all time. So I figured let's take a look at it, see where they rank things, see if we agree with any of them. And I'll say the ground rules first. This is what The Ringer had for ground rules with this
A lot of rules.
list. They had a lot of rules. I'll do the main three here, but first, only series finales that aired in the 21st century were considered. So no MASH. MASH, they said, oh, sorry, pouring one out for you. You're not on this list. Sorry, guys. We also have the finales of limited series were not eligible. However, when limited series became regular series, then they were eligible to be included. And then the ranking was made with pure quality in mind, rather than commercial factors like audience sizes or impact. So, yes, John, that's why you won't see Dexter or Game of Thrones on this list. Those finales.
Multiple finales.
Yeah, I love how the article was like, literally, quote, those finales were terrible, and including them would be invalidate the entire project. So they're like, yeah, like they're just taking shots at Dexter and Game of Thrones there. But all right, let's look at the list. Let's at least go, I'll mention 10 to 1. We're scrolling the list on our Twitch and YouTube streams here, but 10 to 1. Let's see, 10 Succession, 9 The Americans, 8 Twin Peaks The Return, 7 6 Feet Under, 6 The Wire, 5 The Leftovers, 4 Breaking Bad, 3 Mad Men, 2 Friday Night Lights, and the number one series finale of all time, The Sopranos. So a lot to discuss with at least this top 10 first. Kyle, your initial thoughts on this top 10?
A lot of good shows there. Surprised to see Friday Night Lights so high. I don't remember the finale so well. I remember liking the series, but I love the Mad Men finale. I really love the Breaking Bad finale. I think that's probably number one for me. And then some other great shows that I've heard about, haven't watched myself. Still, I know this is a blind spot for me. I still need to check out The Sopranos.
I'm in season 2 right now. I'm working my way through.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the finale yet, but I know what happens.
Yeah,
we all do, I guess.
I got to get through it. I'm also surprised with something like Succession, because they put this in after the fact. It's so hard when it's so fresh.
Yeah.
To put it into perspective. I mean, I think it deserves to be in the top 10, especially for the 21st century, and it's a great show. But it's tough to put things into perspective like that when it's so new. But I give them some credit for not putting it like crazy high, because sometimes you get recency bias with that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah,
no, I
10
think it's a
feels like
fair
a
assessment.
10 feels like a good spot right now, with it being new. If it was like in the top five, I'd be like, all right, that's shenanigans. I don't know.
Mhm.
Especially when you have, I mean, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, Friday Night Lights, Sopranos, like
Yeah.
those shows in there. Yeah, I love to see The Americans in there, 6 Feet Under. Yeah,
Mm.
Breaking Bad is 4 versus Mad Men's 3. John, any thoughts on that one there?
Um, I mean, personally, I was more invested in Breaking Bad, so for me, it made sense. It would make sense to have Breaking Bad higher, but I mean, this things like these are always going to be an opinion piece. Like,
Yeah.
there's only so much you can say definitively. A is better than B. Like,
Mm.
is Breaking Bad better than Dexter finale wise? Yes. Is it better than Mad Men? I think it is, but obviously they don't. So it's like, it's subjective. It's not objective. So
And
uh,
Breaking Bad had like that. I mean, the finale is great, but I think it has like this great like 3 episode
mm,
finale
yeah,
where it's from Ozymandias, Granite
Mm.
State, and
Yeah.
Felina. Like those 3 in a row, that's a finale. And you
yeah.
can even say that a little bit with like Succession, where it was like the election episode, the
Mhm.
spoiler episode, and the finale. And it's like, oh wow, like those 3 episodes to end a series. And yeah, I mean, you got 6 feet under on here. It's like has, that iconic like flash forward moment in the last like 5-10 minutes there in that montage. And it's something like I feel like all these other shows now do. I think even
Mm.
like, yeah, like Parks and Rec had it to an extent. Like all these ones always like to see how everything ends, and they really kind of set it up with 6 feet under. But let's look at some of the other ones that stood out here. To go back to John, I see Better Call Saul, number 12 on the
Yep.
list. Veep is sandwiched in between. I don't know. I liked Veep. I don't know if Veep is, right there with Succession and Better Call Saul, but
Didn't see
uh
it.
yeah, but
Some
yeah,
of these, I wonder, you have to factor in the seasons as well,
yeah,
because sometimes the finale isn't the one, it's the one or two before, as in the case of like Breaking Bad.
yeah,
Ozymandias might be one of the best episodes
yeah.
ever, you know what I mean? So yeah, so maybe they're factoring in the entire series. With Veep, I feel bad because I got through like, I don't know what happened. I just like fell out in the final season. I don't know what happened, but I never saw the finale. Um, and I
Yeah,
know that's
that's a
when
lot with your shows. I mean, I know I'll look at 18, The Good Place. You
yep,
didn't
I
you didn't
never
finish that.
I came like 5 short
Did
of
you ever
that.
finish Parks and Rec?
Yes, I did
All right,
finish
that's
Parks and
that's
Rec.
that's 20. So
Yeah.
I'm confused, but I think you might be with me, Kyle. A little not as high on The Good Place as a lot of people
Yeah.
are. I think
No.
the first season's good, season two,
Yeah.
okay, but then I think by the end they
Yeah.
were kind of spinning its wheels a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, and I think that's why I fell out, and I never actually finished it because I didn't like where it was going, and kept doing retreading old stuff. It was just,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's why I gave up on it,
Yeah, we got
unfortunately.
Nathan for You, one of my favorites, 16, Finding
Hmm.
Francis on there.
That is
That
a
one
great
was
finale.
that is a great finale, but I think mostly because it was so different
Yeah.
than the rest of the stuff. Like that, it told a story instead of it
Like
being a
it was like
situation.
2 hour movie. It was yeah, it was
Yeah,
a special
Well,
event.
it was
I
kind of
think
a
it,
surprise, which is nice.
yeah, and I think it's like a kind of premonition, which is a terrible word. I can't think of the word I want to use, but for like his,
Precursor.
yeah, precursor for his future
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
because it's almost like
For
a
sure.
built-in for the rehearsal, that
Yeah.
that kind of show.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. And I'll just run through some of the in the 20s here. 21 Friends, 26 Lost, 27 Halt and Catch Fire, 28 The
I
West
love
Wing,
*Halt and Catch
29
Fire*.
Mr. Robot.
Mhm.
A lot of good ones in that list as well. Yeah, Halt and Catch Fire had a great series finale.
Yeah,
Um
I think even with where the show turned out, I think *Mr. Robots* is a good one too.
yeah.
I remember liking how it came
Yeah, I
out.
remember liking the finale, but I feel like there was points in like season 3 and 4. It was losing me a bit. Like
Hmm.
we got really out there with
For sure.
what it was trying to
That's where I
trying to
stopped
do.
watching. Yeah.
Yeah. But and then 33, Arrested Development, and it's the season 3 finale, which
Yeah.
was the original series
Mm.
finale, not the Netflix seasons. It is a good finale, but I don't know. Does it
I
make
don't
the
think it
list?
counts. That doesn't
Yeah, I
count.
feel like they're kind of stretching that one to be included because like
I
it's no
bet that's
longer a finale.
I
It's
bet that's where they wanted it to end.
yeah. But yeah, those Netflix seasons didn't exist, I guess. But all right, yeah, pretty interesting list from The Ringer, top 40. Any other thoughts on that before we move on to our next in and out point?
I think I was surprised to see the David Letterman
Yeah.
on there just because
Hmm.
I just think for a certain batch of writers, comedians, and things in general, like David Letterman was the top guy. So I think anything to
Yeah.
do with him and his final show is probably going to be on a list like this. But
It's
I don't know. I
interesting.
didn't see it myself, so I don't know what it's
Yeah.
like. But it was just interesting to see it at the top 40 of.
There's a great top 10 that they do because they have like all these like guests that they've always had on the show, like the top 10 guests that they've had. And there's one with like Jerry Seinfeld does one, and then like number 4 after him is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and his was like things like I always wanted to say to Dave but didn't get a chance to, and hers is like, thank you for letting me be a part of an otherwise disappointing series finale, and she's doing it right in front of like Jerry, and
That's funny.
so there's like some good lines in that. It's interesting because I've been like on a Letterman like YouTube, they've been posting a lot of clips, a lot of throwbacks, a lot of like staff's favorite moments on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot, and it's always one of those things where I feel like when Letterman was ending, I was like, really, like, yeah, he's been around for a while, but like I feel like he's kind of been coasting, these last 4 or 5 years, not doing anything exciting. And like then you watch these old clips, I'm like, wow, he really did all these like crazy, exciting, experimental stuff. And I'm like, yeah, where was that? Like I would have loved to have had that Dave, more in my life. But oh well. All right. So that is it for this list here. I know Amazon had it. I didn't see Maisel on it. Maybe it was just because it didn't air yet, but Fleabag made the list at 14. We're going to talk about Amazon in our next in and out point. Amazon Prime Video is going to debut a new feature called Dialogue Boost, which will let users increase the volume of dialogue relative to the background music and effects on a limited originals. So right now, you're trying it out on The Marvelous Miss Maisel, the Jack Ryan series, some films like The Big Sick and Beautiful Boy, and a few other Amazon originals. But excited about this one, John?
I think it's the right move to do. I mean, the tech pretty much exists. It's just a matter of implementing it. I forget who it was, whether it was Amazon or Netflix, but somebody has a audio descriptive channel where they say like the main character walks up the stairs, and it's like, I mean, it's an accessibility thing. Like that's cool. You don't have to use it, but it's cool that it exists.
I had that once on by accident. I was like, what is happening? Like, it was like
me
on
too.
you, and I'm like, what is this narration that they're doing now? Like,
me too. But like even something like I'm hoping what this leads to, because Amazon owns Twitch, is that users on Twitch could create their own mix in a way, because like right now while we're streaming, I'm sending 6 different audio channels to Twitch. How hard would it be to offer an alternate channel for, something minus a game, or the game quieter, or even better, it broken down and let the user control the volume? I mean, I think that's kind of where media should be going for,
that would be great.
A recommended mix, and then from there, if you want to change it, you can. I mean, pretty much every video game you play nowadays has a sound effects, a music, a background noise, and an audio dialogue slider for volume. So why not for shows?
Chris Nolan is not
rolling in his grave.
Yeah, I was just
he's
One
rolling
channel
in his
only.
bed. He's like, no way, I'm not doing that. But yeah, so they initially built this feature for customers that were hard of hearing, but then they said, oh well, anyone can use this feature, and I have to say, like, yeah, thank goodness, because this is such a mess. Like, I have a sound bar, and it's even tuned to dialogue boost on the soundbar, and I still can't hear what's going on half the time because the volume levels are all over the place. Even just before we got on, I'm on Netflix. Netflix needs to be in like the 50s on my thing. Meanwhile, Paramount Plus is at like 10 or 12. So like that changeover is always so loud or so quiet. And then when you're on Paramount Plus, 10, you can barely hear the dialogue, but the music is great. You go up to 12, dialogue's good, and then the music feels like it's at 40. It's like I just to be able to change which version would be great. Kyle, are you excited for this?
Yeah, I mean, my question is, why aren't they doing this in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I want to hear what's happening with the story. And half the time I can't hear what's being said. So I keep the captions on pretty much all the time now. There are very few shows where I do not have the captions, but I feel like this is every show. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the background is too high, the sound effects are overpowering, and I get it from the sound perspective. You want to hear those things and you want to accent those things and all that, but if I can't hear what's going on in the story, it's just, what are we doing here? It should have been an option a long time ago, or better yet, just make it this way in the mix anyways.
Yeah. Do it to begin with.
Yeah.
And don't give the reason. Oh, Chris Nolan's like, well, I want you in the moment and not if they can't hear it, you don't need to hear it. It's like, well, I need to hear it because I need to know what the hell's
Yeah.
going on. Sorry,
Yeah.
you know, Tenet's confusing as it is. Can you like at least let me hear the dialogue? But yeah, so Dialogue Boost analyzes the original audio in a movie or series and identifies points where dialogue may be hard to hear, and then speech patterns are isolated and the audio is enhanced to make the dialogue clearer. So according to Amazon, this kind of AI-based approach delivers a targeted enhancement to portions of spoken dialogue rather than general amplification at the center channel in a home theater system.
That's weird. I don't get why they're not just making a new mix.
I don't know.
If you're doing an English mix, you're doing all the different languages, you're doing mixes for all the dialogue. Why not do a second mix? Like, I don't know. It just seems that seems like a way to get backwards compatibility, I suppose. But like, you have that data. Why
It
not
seems like
use
there's
it?
easier ways out there.
Yeah. Why are you doing something that's going to be like a lossless result where it's trying to, a lossy result where it's trying to figure out what's what, where you can have a lossless result with the original audio? That seems backwards to me. It didn't even occur to me that they weren't doing that. So that's kind of not what I would like to see personally.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see what AI will spit back out, and if it's good or needs some work. So, but all right, we're gonna move from Amazon to another streamer, and because we're talking about Netflix, we get to ask what the Q.
What the is going on?
All right, I got a couple of news stories about Netflix, and the first one is people are so used to it now, but Netflix will cancel their favorite series before it even has a chance to grow. And some users are no longer Netflix and chilling. They're going to be Netflix grinding. So following the release of the show's second season in mid-March, folks on the Shadow and Bone subreddit, which has about 24,000 members, began hosting nightly watch parties of the Netflix series in an effort to bolster the numbers so that it will, they hope at least, get renewed for a third season. So they're trying anything. It's like, we got to have this watch party. We have to keep watching this show over and over and over and over again to maybe hopefully be like, hey guys, it's popular. Look at these numbers spiking all at once. This must be huge. We have to watch season 3 now.
Can't Netflix at this point just tell who's watching it and who's not? They're probably looking at the results and being like, this loser watched it 8 times in a row.
Well, they did know that one woman watched, what was it? Finding Nemo or something like 400 times in a year.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
Like they found that person, so they must know that the same people are watching this over and over.
Yeah, that's why I'm like confused by it, because it's like, do they need new viewers? Like, because then could you just add profiles on your account, or is it like by account? Because like you could be like, oh, there's 10 people in my household. We all watched it twice. That's 20 views versus, but then it's like, no, it's the same person watching it over and over again, just with a different name. So
yeah,
it's one per account or something like that.
Yeah, you'd want unique users. I imagine maybe they do something by IP address as well. Like, I don't know. We know they have the data. They probably have more than they're definitely sharing. So, I just think I
Sorry.
just think there's no way that they wouldn't know that, the same 8,000 people are watching this show over and over
Yeah.
and over.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like, yeah, why not just, who cares about the watch party? Just put it on a loop. Just
Yeah.
every morning when you wake up, just hit play. It's just like leave for the day. But yeah, it's like, but there is something to this idea though, because Netflix like bases all of their like renewal, metrics on pretty much the views in a certain amount of time frame. Like they got this idea from writer Brian Michael Scully, who pretty much said the show's future is dependent on how many views its second season received in its first 28 days on Netflix. So that first
Mhm.
month, it's like, okay, did it click? Oh, it didn't click. Okay, it's over. It's a loss now to the Netflix
Yeah.
ether of, which is just wild. It's just like, you don't, any show, especially broadcast, they don't survive just, with this metric. Because if you go back to like Seinfeld back in the day,
Mhm.
that thing barely was hanging on through season 2, maybe season 3, and it skin of its teeth, and then it became huge. And you wouldn't have that with Netflix nowadays. Now it's just like a wasteland of one season, you know, shows
Yeah.
with no
Well,
ending.
but I think this is the problem of their own creation. Maybe they don't see it as a problem, but it is a problem of their own creation because it's the business model they set up for themselves. If they went week to week, then you could have
Yeah.
people building an audience or something like that. But when it's all or nothing, now you gotta base your metrics on all or nothing. We gotta have everyone watching at this moment because in 2 weeks we got some other crap we want to send out and we want people to watch then too. So this is the business model that they've set up for themselves, but it's probably not good for content quality, and it's not good for the users in the long run.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, I mean, Netflix is, the other thing that they're trying to do is crack down on passwords. And at least
Mm.
initially, this Netflix password crackdown is working according to early data. On May 23rd, Netflix began notifying US customers that users on their accounts who live outside their households would need to be added as an extra member or get their own subscriptions. And since then, Netflix has had at least Netflix has had the 4 single largest days of US user signups since January 19th, when research company Antenna first began tracking the metrics. So in other words, because I completely butchered that, they had 4 crazy big sign up days after doing this password crackdown. Based on the most current Antenna data available, Netflix is averaging daily signups about 73,000 from May 25th through the 28th. That's a 102% increase from the prior 60-day average. That was more than the spikes in subscriber signups that Antenna recorded back in the initial US COVID, lockdowns in March and April 2020. So those, at least, unfortunately, this crackdown thing seems to be working. People are signing up and, giving Netflix the money. So great for them. But I think
Crazy.
bad news for anyone who's sharing maybe a Max account, an Amazon account, a Peacock account, any of those. The crackdown is coming, I think.
I don't want to jinx it, but that hasn't happened to my family's account yet.
Oh, as soon as you get off this podcast,
I'm not gonna admit that live on the
They're
air.
everywhere.
But yeah.
And don't worry, your secret is safe with the 3 of us listening right now.
Yeah, good.
Here's the thing with this is that in the world of stockholder land, it needs to be exponential growth. Eventually, this growth is going to level out. So, and then we're right back to, well, how's Netflix going to do? Can they keep it's just all the same stuff. It's impossible for these media companies to grow at an exponential level, especially with the media landscape the way it is, the way people watch TikTok rather than, full length shows. It's just, I still don't see this as a win because I know that it's going to level off at some point. They're not going to get everyone. They want each individual person in the household to have. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
And that'll be the next thing where it's like, oh yeah, you have an account in your household, but now every user in that household needs
every
their own account.
profile. Yeah,
And it's not going to stop until because they need to keep growing and growing and growing.
I think it's going to drop eventually. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
how long
definitely.
until someone says this isn't worth $15, $30, whatever it is?
It's going to keep
I'm
going
not-
up. The prices are going to go up. And
Yeah.
I was complaining to you guys over the weekend. We have Hulu. We have Hulu with no ads. And we're like, well, we wanted Disney Plus for something. It's like, okay, let's get Disney Plus. And we go to Disney Plus's website. It's like, okay, you can get Disney Plus with Hulu, or you can get Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. I'm like, well, I already have Hulu. I don't need this bundle or whatever. I just want Disney Plus. That wasn't an option on the main page. And I'm like, okay, let me go into Hulu. And then on Hulu, it's like, oh yeah, you can get Disney Plus. Let's see, I think it was like the ads only plan. I couldn't get the no ads plan. But even though I already have the Hulu no ads plan, like, no, you only can get this plan. And I'm like it's one of those things. I'm trying to give you money. Take my money. I want
Make it easier. That's the keys, to make it easier. That's the reason why software piracy has gone down with the advent of Steam and stuff. It's just like, it's so easy to get it through, a store that you 2 clicks, you're done. Like, don't make me jump through hoops. Don't make the price ridiculously, a high hurdle to hit, and you're golden.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just don't know, like, what is it even worth it anymore? We've talked about it. It's like with Netflix, it's like, let's look at their programming. Let's do the top 10s we always like to do and what the queue. I mean, I'll read off the top 10 here for TV. This is live. This is what's the top 10 right now. Number 10, The Ultimatum. 9, Fake Profile. 8, All American. 7, SWAT. 6, Tex-Mex Motors. 5, Bloodhounds. 4, Arnold. 3, FUBAR. 2, Manifest. And the top show right now, Never Have I Ever. And it's like, okay, you got 2 initially canceled broadcast series that in a way came back. An Arnold Schwarzenegger comedy that's polling like 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. A couple of reality TV series about dating and cars. Do I need this?
No.
I don't know. And then you look at the movies. All right, the movies. 10, Missing. 9, Funny People. 8, The Kingdom. 7, Mean Girls. 6, The Choice. 5, Forever My Girl. 4, Zookeeper. That's with the Kevin James comedy there from whatever 2009. 3, Angry Birds movie. 2, We're the Millers. And number one movie in the U.S. today, The Boss Baby.
What the
Wow.
hell?
And it's like,
even their streaming, like the licensing ones that they get aren't even the greatest. I mean, I love We're the Millers, but even their licensing stuff is not good. So to me right now, Netflix would be the first to go. I think they've overspent. They're trying to pull it back with a bunch of content quantity in documentaries and reality shows.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of
those
reality
are the
shows
cheapest to make. I just think I think Netflix is really hurting, honestly.
Yeah. And you look at this, 0 Netflix films. Every time we do this, What the Queue, they spend $200 million on all these movies, and none of them are ever in the top 10. It's always licensed stuff here. And a lot of these are from like 10, 15 years ago. With the exception of Missing, they're all like 2010, 11, 13. Like,
yeah.
All right. I guess. I mean, I guess people are watching, but like, is it? I don't know if I need to spend whatever $15 a month to watch The Boss Baby and Zookeeper. Like,
Yeah.
But okay. You know what I need to spend $15 a month watching? The Idol. Oh boy, here we go. Let's go back, guys.
We're back, baby.
Gotta get back in time.
The Idol series premiere, Pop-Tarts and Rat Tails. It dropped June 4th on Max. It's an HBO original on Max. The Idol focuses on Jocelyn, played by Lily Rose Depp, an aspiring pop idol who, after having a nervous breakdown that causes her last tour to be canceled, resolves to reclaim her title as the sexiest pop star in America and begins a complex relationship with Tedros, which is played by The Weeknd, who's a self-help guru and the head of a contemporary cult. All right, so let me set the stage a little bit here. This is the much buzzed about show. You know, we've all been hearing about it leading up to this premiere. There was that famous Stone article that detailed how it went through a complete overhaul that resulted in a slew of reshoots and rewrites and just $75 million that were just went down the drain. After 80% of the show was finished, the director suddenly exited the series after The Weeknd, who was the show's co-creator, felt like the show was headed too much into, quote, a female perspective. So Sam Levinson came on board from Euphoria, and many sources said that the disturbing sexual content and nudity came with him. And I'm not going to discuss all the imagery that was either in the script that or maybe was never shot or was shot, and we're waiting to see if it makes into the final cut. You can read the article. But one source said he said, it was like, what is this? What am I reading here? It was like sexual torture porn. And we'll have to see. So we watched the premiere. I've actually seen both episodes that have been released so far.
I have a question.
Yes.
How can it be too much from a female perspective if the main character who we're following is a female?
I guess the show wasn't enough Weekend for The Weeknd, and I kind of can feel watching this show. We'll get to it in a bit here. I think the original hook sounds good. The original premise of this show: a troubled starlet falling victim, to the industry, fighting to reclaim her agency. I like that show, but right now I feel like this is like two shows that they mashed together, and I can feel the reshoots. The first half of both of these episodes, I'm following Jocelyn. They're talking about the industry. I'm into it. And then the second half comes and The Weeknd strolls by. And I just feel like the show, it doesn't work for me. And I think that's like, we're leaning more into his character, more into that storyline and what he's going to do in this series. So before we get too far down that, just initial thoughts, Kyle, what did you think of The Idol?
Sex, baby. No, but we get right into it with the first shot there. I think they're trying to kind of showcase what the industry is like for a young starlet, and I think these common themes that have been done over and over again, and I don't necessarily think that they're doing it in any unique or fantastic way. So, in order for this to really pop, I think you would need two really great actors, and I don't know if The Weeknd has the acting chops for me to really make some of these scenes work. But you're right. There were moments where I'm like into this, I'm interested. I feel like she does a pretty good job with what's given to her. But the common themes we've seen before, it's not doing anything unique. It's showing a lot of skin. And I mean, there is a lot to look at, but I mean, if that's all you got going for the show, I don't know if that's enough. I need something else here.
I think the best way I can sum it up is there was this line from a critic I saw, so I'm kind of paraphrasing it, is it went from satire to the thing it was satirizing.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the line. And I think like I watched both of the after the episode, what is the episode about thing that we'll talk about in a little bit. And I feel like they don't know what the show is. Like what is the actual premise? What are you trying to say? And as you said, Kyle, it's like, I don't think they have anything to say. Like, what's your comment on the industry? Like, what are you, what's new? What's your new take? Like, why now? Why are we telling this story? And I think that's what really fails. It's just, I mean, John, what are your initial thoughts on The Idol?
No, I'm in the same boat. I spent the whole episode sitting here saying like, all right, what's the bigger picture? I don't get like, all right, she's releasing a new single or a new album. She's getting ready to go on tour, and she has some past trauma with her mother. That all kind of is one thing, and then like Kyle said, we end up with a whole different show for the second half where she's going to the club and meeting the character player of The Weeknd, and they're like entanglement. And it's just like they kind of try and force them to meet at the end with the scene where they're in her home studio, but it doesn't, like, I don't know, it doesn't work. He's just like, oh yeah, you got to sing it like you mean it. It's like, yeah, that's music. Like, duh, come on.
There is so many lines that I wrote down. That
Yeah.
It's like everything he says is just cliches where it's
Yeah.
like, gotta think outside the box. You're too much inside your own head. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a line, I think it might be in the first episode. You know, the song is called I'm a Freak, and I just don't believe it. You need to know how to F. It's like, who's writing? It feels like there's this, you guys didn't get to it, but in episode 2, not only was there a blast of exposition monologues where it's like, I think one of the managers was like, remember last year, Jocelyn, when blah 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 blah, and it's just like, yeah, like, you don't need to tell us because you're telling us, the audience. But anyways, the Weeknd comes over to the house, and of course immediately somebody gets naked in his group and just runs around the house the whole time. But the Weeknd goes off with Jocelyn, and they have another rendezvous. And there's some of the most cringiest sexual dialogue that felt like he was just ad-libbing this stuff, but it sounded like literally like what a 14-year-old would think sex and, like, you know, sexy talk would be.
Yeah.
It's just like,
well, I mean, let's go to when they first are hooking up in the stairwell scene, and they're sneaking around, and her assistant is like just saying her name, doesn't ever see her, like doesn't ever see them, and then they feel the need to stop, and then it goes to this terrible line that he's like, oh, what a boner killer, am I right? And I'm like, oh my God, really, that line? And she has to play off that because it's a terrible line to begin with, but the Weeknd, it doesn't pull it off any better. And then I feel bad for her because she's got to react to that. And it's like, there's no, this is just a bad scene. This is a bad scene.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit more about the Weeknd here, because I'm not sure I buy her immediately being attracted to this sleaze, because in real life, okay, he's the Weeknd. I get it. Okay. He's the Weeknd. But in this world, he's not. He's this nightclub owner with a rat tail that's like, she's Jocelyn. She's this mega pop star. Like, it doesn't make sense that the two of them would immediately be like, she would drop everything to be with this guy.
Yeah. The only thing I'm thinking of is like, she's in a tough place. Also, he owns a place, so she might think he has money or something, or I don't know, has power in that money, sense. Though. Yeah. I know, but she's
got that whole mansion.
I know.
But I get what you're saying. The power.
Yeah, the power that comes along with that. Like, I totally lost my train of thought.
But I was gonna say, like, no, with him though, where it's just like what is he offering her really? Because, like, you know, minutes after their meeting, it's like, you know, she's like, oh, I like you, but like, he's like, what kind of wisdom is he giving out? So it's just I remember, as we talked about the lines, it's like these most cliche, generic, like, tips about the industry. It's like, you could get this off Wikipedia.
So I think what they're going for is they're trying to play off those terrible written lines as like mystery. And so he's like this mystery man that's dangerous, but these lines are just terrible. And it's supposed to be him being vague. That vague is mysterious. That mysteriousness is hot and attractive to her, I guess.
I feel like this show is like almost doing like maybe something like The Room, like the Tommy Wiseau thing, where I think the creators thought like this is like a serious thing, but then now it's like, oh no, he's supposed to be like a goofy sleazeball. We're supposed to be laughing at him, like, kind of thing. It's like, no, you thought this guy was cool. Like, you're going back on it now.
You hedged your bets and you lost, man. Yeah. Just take it.
But and I feel like this show is real. It felt very on the nose in the first episode. In the first like 10-15 minutes, the show was like making fun of like nudity writers, and there was like locking out the intimacy coordinators in the closet, and the guy's yelling, "I'm just doing my job," and it's like, and that's like them being like, "F you guys, we're gonna go."
That's
like,
what I thought too.
Like, grow up. Like,
Yeah.
but
I was like, as the creator, like getting back at,
yeah,
these intimacy coordinators. I've been battling these intimacy coordinators. I'm going to write a story about it. It's just so stupid.
This will show them.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I watched the second episode. I wouldn't recommend it. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'm kind of laughing at it at points. I'm disturbed by other points. I just think like the amount of like what again to go back to what we were saying in the beginning. It's like, what are you trying to say? Because right now it just feels so bland, feels so basic of this story for an HBO 9 p.m. Sunday night show. It's just like, really, this is what we're doing. And I want to talk a little bit about like the max of it all, because first I want to discuss the behind the scenes like propaganda that they're doing, like those little like behind the episode kind of things. Because first, there's a thing about like how like Sam Levinson was like, oh, we finished shooting Euphoria, and I go to Abel's house, that's the weekend, to discuss this idea. And it's like, well, no, the series was already 80% done. You kind of joined and kind of retooled everything and spent an extra $75 million, but okay. But then there's this like funny moment to me that like Dan Levy was saying like, oh, how great it was to be with, with Hank Azaria and Eli Roth, Jane Addams, all these people there, and they were all together, and they were just on the set riffing. They were just going, and they were saying this, and like it cuts to him in the scene going like, the thought of you younger terrifies me. And I was like, that's it? Like that's the riff, that's the line? Like, wow, don't pull any muscles with a line like that. Like, oh wow.
Yeah.
What a nail biter. But it actually reminds me, what do you think of Hank Azaria in this?
Yeah, that was an interesting it was an interesting choice. I don't know how I feel about it.
I like Hank Azaria, but I don't like that accent. Like it's pulling me out every time he's such a good voiceover actor. I mean, obviously with The Simpsons, but like it just maybe it's just I'm so used to Brockmire and that voice, and maybe just his normal voice, that like this is really throwing me. It just feels so put on.
Yeah.
But
I think Dan Levy, I think this character matches his kind of vibe,
Yeah. Yeah, so. I could see that. And the other thing I want to talk about with like Max is like, so on the premiere night, I probably tried to tune in like on Max at like 9:15, 9:20, and I go to the app, and it was so hard to find this episode. And you would think this would be the top thing on the show, like on the app. Like I would click it and it'd be there. Instead, it was like a few after, like a true crime series, and it's like, how is this not number one? And it's just like, it boggles me that like, okay, maybe it's not going to be for all users, but I've never clicked any Discovery Plus content on Max. I always watch 9 p.m. HBO shows on Sunday nights. Why are you giving me like this Discovery Plus content when you have this big launch, or what you're trying to do of the Sunday night 9 p.m. weekend Lily Rose Depp, Kane's, it's just...
Dude, the minute I switched over to Max, that's all it was. So HBO in the Max universe is an afterthought. I don't think it's something that they're advertising. I think it's all the reality stuff. That's the go-to. And then if you want, and if I think the thinking is like, if you know your HBO content and you want your HBO content, go to this thing, because it has its own little separate like bubble. Yeah. It's just, but this is the minute I updated to Max, that's all I saw. I was like, wait, where's even the show that I was watching? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, every time I turn on the app, it's like the top 5 series that they scroll through. It's like three of them are Discovery Plus, and I was like, like before I went on, I was like, okay, Rick and Morty. It's like I never watched a single animated thing on this. Like in this image here we have on Twitch, it's like you have Succession all the way to the side. Meanwhile, you get dead center, The Rock and Black Adam, which just did terrible at the box office. DC is not doing well at the box office. You have Harry Potter franchise, which the Fantastic Beasts ones was not working. And this is, whatever, from 10 years ago. They're going to reboot that. Actually, 20 years ago. Oh my God, I'm dating myself with Harry Potter. But then, yeah, it's like, and you have HGTV stuff. It's just like, oh, man, what are we doing? And it's just, it's too bad. But,
yeah.
oh, well. Okay, I think that's all I got for The Idol. Any other thoughts on The Idol? You guys gonna be watching more?
Mm, I don't think so.
Not unless I hear something crazy.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where I
Well.
might check in here and there on it because it's like, okay, Sunday night, HBO, I get to be a part of the Twitter conversation, but I don't even know if anyone's really even talking about it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
But we'll see. All right, we got some time tonight. We actually have three season threes to talk about, and that is our quick check segment. All right, so we're gonna jump into three different season threes, and we're gonna start off with John. What is your season three we're talking about?
I think you should leave with Tim Robinson.
Okay.
So season 3, like we said, I'm gonna have a couple things to say. I don't think you guys are gonna agree with me.
Uh-oh.
First off, back to the Amazon mixing. I thought this was mixed terribly. There were a lot of times where he was yelling, I could hear him okay, and then he'd talk and I couldn't hear him at all. And it's like, how am I supposed to watch this show? But that was a small point. I don't think I enjoyed this nearly as much as the other ones. There were a couple times where there was some funny, haha, chuckle in your head. Nothing made me laugh out loud. Nothing made me like. I walked away with a few things I remember as being funny, but nothing that's like, oh, I would mention that to a friend. Like there was nothing that really made me go, like, yeah, okay, it's back. It was just kind of like, all right, more of the same. And I don't know if that's something that is just me or if that's kind of the general feel about it. But I feel like the first season was a very flash in the pan, like, oh, great. And then the second one was like, all right, cool. It's still cool. And then this one, it just feels a little overplayed to me. I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I would say a good 80 to 85% of it. I was just like, okay, he's just yelling. Okay.
Yeah. I unfortunately hear you. I enjoyed watching this show, but if I had to like rank the seasons, it would be 1, 2, 3. And I don't know, it's like maybe I need to like repeat watch. I have to, go through it again because
I
I saw
watched them all
season
twice.
one so much. So much I because I kept showing it to friends. Showed it to Kyle. I remember showing it to Brett. Like I was showing it to all my friends of just like, you gotta watch this, you gotta watch this. And it was funnier. It kept going and going.
Mhm.
Maybe I gotta watch season
And
3 again. But
you know what? In a group, it might have been funnier just
Mm.
because there's people there to laugh with. But
Yeah.
I watched it and I was thinking about it. I watched it a couple days. No, I watched it that Sunday. Not this Sunday, the previous one. I watched it and then I spent all week thinking about it. And then this weekend I watched almost all of it again, and it I don't think it really did anything for me. Like I don't know. Kyle, I'm assuming you saw it as well, yeah?
I definitely kind of agree with you. It's my least favorite of all the seasons. For me, it was just I think every sketch kind of starts off somewhat relatable. Like I know somebody that's like that, or I've been in this situation like that. And then you get going down a path and you're with it, and then it starts heading in a totally different direction, and then people are out of control. And even from the direction that you thought it was heading, the ending is totally different. Sometimes I think they needed to pick something and just kind of stick with it rather than veering off into crazy land. And it would have been funnier, I think, if they made the jokes a little bit better or the story a little bit better. But I think part of this charm of the show is that it's willing to take some chances. I didn't like all of them, and there were moments from each of the sketches that I enjoyed, but very few like really laugh out loud moments. And there's some sketches I just didn't really like. And that's how sketch comedy can work sometimes.
Yeah. And there's definitely potential in these sketches. And like as you said, like I almost feel like they need to pick like one detour in the sketch because these have sometimes like multiple. I mean, versus something like SNL where you maybe have one joke and you beat it to death for 5 to 6 minutes. These like these will end abruptly, or maybe you starts one way and then it goes to a different spot and then a different spot and then a different spot. With that being said, it's I still had a couple favorites. I will say the summer loving bachelor show where he's just like obsessed with the zip line.
Yeah,
and I feel like we could even gone more with it. Like I feel like it was like the start of an idea. The pay it forward drive-through sketch where he's like it starts off like this sentimental thing and then immediately runs around 55 hit me balls, 55 this, 55 it's just like but any ones that stood out to you guys that you enjoyed? I kind of mahogany this quick check.
No,
it's John's
all
quick
good.
check, but
I kind of like that there was a little bit of an arc of the ponytail to dog hair to in the limo kind of guy, but that wasn't enough to make it like like it wasn't like, oh it's relating back to the other one. It was just like, oh, all right, it's the same guy. Like, oh, cool. Like, I don't know. I liked the crooner. That was all right. I like the eggs. That was all right. Other than that, it was just like, all right, I'm just kind of watching. Okay.
Yeah.
Any for you, Kyle?
Any that you guys didn't mention?
Or any that you hated, I guess?
I didn't like the metal man. I thought the metal man thing didn't work for me. There were moments in the ponytail one that worked, but then it's like others didn't. That's but I think one of the best ones was the zip line one.
Yeah.
It's just everything about it is hilarious.
There was the supermarket like sweep one where like the VR. I kind of wished like maybe it's I'm so basic. I wanted more of like doing the supermarket thing. Maybe he can't get it or he can't grab something, but for him just to like freeze up in VR and like like that's it. That's all we're doing with this whole like premise. We have this great premise to go from, and then we're just kind of
and
keeping
then he
it limited.
How to walk. Like, all right, all right, next.
All right. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, I feel like this show, at least on my internet timeline, always is quoted and memed and stuff. So I'm assuming it does well. And
I've been seeing it. It's not like it's been poorly received. It's just I don't know.
And it can't cost that much to make. So I'm thinking Netflix will probably renew it at least for another season. Tim Robinson actually won an Emmy for like whatever short form thing last year, so I think it won Netflix an Emmy, so maybe it'll be back for season 4.
Or they'll pull a Netflix and it's gone.
Yeah. Let's start Netflix grinding it and Okay. Well, I'm gonna talk about my season 3 now, and it's Dave is doing Dave for my season 3, and it had its season finale on May 31st. We actually talked about the premiere in 420, but this all wrapped up the Looking for Love tour that he's been on all season. Overall, I feel like this season, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it felt a bit more like I feel like disjointed with these like standalone episodes in each city, almost like not as crazy as like Atlanta's 3rd season where it was like these standalone episodes, but that means there's gonna be some highs, there's gonna be some lows. Some episodes are gonna work, some are not gonna work, just depending on the situation and the premise of each individual episode. But it was always like a nice watch, and I feel like it relied on a lot of celebs and cameos this season. I mean, that's saying something for this show that has had like Justin Bieber and Kourtney Kardashian and Doja Cat, Kevin Hart. Like they always had so many cameos as it is, but like this season we had Usher, Rick Ross, Demi Lovato, Don Cheadle, Megan Fox, Jack Harlow, Rachel McAdams. So like there were so many people. And then I guess we could talk about the finale a little bit, Kyle. We had this finale with Brad Pitt and also Drake. He shows up in a bit, but like with Brad Pitt, I thought it was gonna be like this like quick like that one music video cameo. It's like Dave even says, "Oh, I don't want to overuse you," kind of thing. It's funnier if it's just a little like, and I'm like, oh wow, like maybe he just came in for that little wave and that little goodbye and that's it. But no, the entire episode is pretty much Brad and Dave in this like Misery style kidnapping situation with a mega fan. What an episode. I think it ended well for the season. But what did you think of Dave season 3 and that finale?
Well, I thought the finale was really good with the Brad Pitt guest star. I think just them playing off each other. I thought it was really well done. And then you had the running joke with the sex doll and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, I thought the season finale was really good. I enjoyed it. I actually liked the back half of the season more
Yeah.
than the front half. Um, so just overall, I just noticed in the early part of the season, I was like, I'm not really loving it. But towards the end, it got a little bit better because I find Dave, especially in the first part. I think I had this last season as well. In the first part of his seasons, where I do not like him. He's not self-reflective, but then towards the end, he starts to get a little bit more, and I think that's part of like the journey of the season. But yeah, I definitely like the back half of the season.
Yeah.
I
I
said
think
think Robin is totally out of his league too.
oh,
I mean,
definitely.
it's so ridiculous.
But I think it helps, like as you're saying, like the back half of the season, because I think like once like Robin is in the picture in this arc, it's like it seems a little bit more like coherent, and like there's like follow through, and like his growth throughout those episodes. Um, I guess speaking of Robin, because I kind of wanted him to go to Robin at the end, but instead
Hmm.
he goes to, I guess, his other love of life, a clearly green screened in Drake.
Yeah.
What do you think of this cameo by Drake?
I mean, I didn't love it, and especially the green screen is distracting.
Yeah.
It's like they try and put him in this Africa setting, and it's just like, what is happening here? So I was more distracted by it than anything. And I definitely thought the Brad Pitt cameo or guest star was much better than this,
Yeah.
but I'm not surprised that Dave went for his career because that's kind of
Yeah.
what he always does, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's something with like the elephant, Robin's gift. So when I first was there, I was like, oh, what's he brought him and Robin
Yeah.
to see the elephant? It's like, oh
Uh-huh.
nope. We're just gonna go to Drake. But
Mhm.
oh well. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think, the show does well for FX, so I mean we'll get a season 4 hopefully. And continue this adventure with Dave. It's crazy because I feel like he doesn't. I mean, I never was like a big like of his music, but like
Mhm.
I feel like he hasn't. I think I saw something like he hasn't released an album like since
Yeah.
the show like started. So it's like
Yeah, I
he's
know.
all in on this. So I think his like fans are like, well, what the hell? Like I love the show, but where's the music?
Yeah, yeah. I know somebody that likes him a lot and they said, "Where's the music, man?" Yeah.
Yeah, but all right. Well, one more season 3 to close, and that is Kyle's. Which one you got?
I have Ted Lasso and I have all hour and 18 minutes of it.
Buckle
Uh
up. Here we go.
yeah, no, the season as a whole, I think I discussed it in another quick check is super it's super long. All the episodes. And weirdly, with the length of the episodes, some of the storylines didn't pay off for me. We're talking about the Keeley storyline and the Nick Muhammad's storyline did not work at all. Him leaving to go to West Ham, the thing with his girlfriend, it just like all this stuff did not add up. Somehow his girlfriend was mean in the beginning, now she's nice. He has like one episode, like 5 minutes, where he has this total turnaround, and then in the end ends up back with Richmond for their title run at the end against West Ham. And this series can be annoying, but it can be also like a little bit of a soothing, like heartwarming thing. And I think the show came out at a time when a lot of people needed it during the pandemic. And I think it wore out its welcome as it went along. The finale overall was kind of corny a lot of the time. We have this dance that all the players do for Ted, but it fits within the scope of the show. Everything turns out well for Richmond. They're playing for the championship. They win. Like everything good happens to them. They kind of all get what they want. So it's heartwarming in that way, but there's really nothing like fighting against any of them. You know what I mean? It's just like purely like a dopamine boost, but it can be corny in so many ways. Like I think possibly Ted Lasso and the owner hooked up. They have this weird flash forward at the end where Ted is like leaving to go back home, but everyone else's life we can see kind of in advance. But then we cut back to Ted at the end at present day. So then the pacing at the end is insane. It's crazy. It's just absolutely
it's crazy that there's so much issue with pacing, because you mentioned it with like the length of these episodes. Like,
Yeah.
I saw this thing with a TV critic, and he did the math. At the time, it was only 11 episodes that it aired at that point. But the first 11 episodes of the season were a total of 585 minutes, which totals, I guess, if you do the average, 53 minutes per episode.
Yeah.
So that means Abbott Elementary does about 462 minutes for a 22 episode season.
Mm-hmm.
So Ted Lasso did about a 28 episode season in those 11 episodes of a comedy. Like,
yeah.
Yet you're saying that the pacing's all over the place, yet they had like hour-long episodes.
Well, in the finale, the pacing was all over the place, and
even like the Nick Muhammad storyline you were saying.
The storyline just didn't work. They wanted us to believe something that they didn't work through. The writing was just too quick. It just did not work, and some of the storylines just were not there. And I feel like they tried to branch out with some of the storylines to give even some different characters more play, but I think it came at the detriment of some of the main characters in the show. I still enjoyed the show. I still definitely liked the first season a lot. It had its moments where it was not great. Overall, the third season is just meh. But if you need a good, I guess, pick me up or a feel good thing, it might be something to watch. But, I would agree with most people where it takes a dip in quality in the second and third season.
And like, is this it? Because
it feels like
conflicting stuff here. Is it a series finale or not? Because it's like, it's so weird to me that A, they don't promote it as that.
Yeah.
But then B, it's like they also are now not confirming it after the fact.
Yeah.
And
it could work both ways. It feels like an ender, but they could possibly write in a fourth season. Like, I could see how they could start a fourth season based on how it ended, but the way it left off felt very final.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like Apple would definitely back that truck up of money to them and do it. Seems like Jason is done, at least with the character. But then, Apple will post this like kind of tweet here where it says like smells like potential. And you have, Coach Beard and Roy Kent and Nate there. It's like, oh, are we going to get a spinoff? Is Ted Lasso going to be without Ted Lasso? Ted Lasso presents.
Could be
the coaches or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. And one thing that really bothered me about the finale was when we flash forward, right? Coach Beard and I'm going to spoil it. Coach Beard ends up, he's going to stay in England and Ted's going to move back home. Okay. So in this flash forward, we see Coach Beard is marrying, Jane, the crazy woman that he's with. But Ted Lasso is not at the wedding, and they're like buddies. And I'm like, it's a flash forward, but you're trying to do it where Ted's going back home. It was a weird way.
Ted would be his best man. Like, come on.
I know. And he would definitely be at the wedding. So it made no sense to me.
Yeah. That's weird. Any show with like flashbacks and stories. I mean, we didn't talk about it on this podcast. It's a whole other topic, but like the Yellow Jacket season 2 of it all, where it's just like there's so many times because they have these two storylines where the adults in present day can't talk about what happened in the past because those are going to be like spoilers for us
Yeah.
because we got to have that excitement. But like they also can't do too much in the past because those characters we know are in the future. So it's like
Yeah.
this conundrum of like, what do we do? We're setting things up. We can't show everything.
Yeah.
You know, we have to hide some things, you know, keep people in hoods because yeah, it's like stuff like this where it's just like, yeah, those people would be there or maybe not be
Yeah.
there, and it's just a mess. But
Yeah.
all right, well, that is it. That's all we got for tonight's show. A lot to cover, a lot we talked about. But next week is actually 2 weeks from now. We've been doing every other week here, and on June 26th, that's our next live show. It's going to be another double header here of Black Mirror season 6, and then we also have the return of The Bear. So we got season 2 of The Bear, we got Black Mirror season 6, a lot to talk about. And man, July is going to be busy after that. We have the returns of The After Party, What We Do in the Shadows, How To with John Wilson, and then we got some movies. I mean, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Barbie, Oppenheimer, a lot of stuff we could be talking about on the podcast. Mission Impossible. There's so much to do. Plus Emmy nominations. You know, if who knows with this, you know, with this WGA strike and the possible SAG strike, if we'll get them. But if we do, we got those to discuss. So we have so much to do. Make sure you are subscribed, ready to go. YouTube, youtube.com/Dual Redundancy, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog, dualredundancy.com. We're live Mondays on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dual Redundancy. June 26th is our next episode. And make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at Dual Redundancy. I got to thank both you guys for joining me tonight for you know, watching The Idol, going through it, watching The Idol, for John directing the show, getting it up on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. I couldn't do it without you guys.
Sure.
All right. Until next time, I'm David Allen.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Dual Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody.